Hi, another new film I recently watched was Final Destination Bloodlines, the sixth and most recent in the series of horror dark comedies. The concept is the same as in previous movies, that someone has a premonition of a impending horrific disaster and is able to prevent it, saving many lives in the process. But death does not like its design to be disrupted, so it gradually picks off the survivors one by one through a series of bizarre yet eerily plausible accidents. This sixth film, Bloodlines, takes an interesting concept. The disaster, in fact, occurred in 1969, and the various survivors have lived long enough to have families of their own. So they shouldn't have existed according to death's design, and they too are being gradually picked off as it works its way down their family trees. I really enjoyed this. I think it really capitalizes on what works really well within the Final Destination series from having watched them earlier in this year. There are interesting and engaging characters who behave in a believable and empathetic way. They're not lazy and stupid the way that they are in some of the previous films. There's a dark sense of humor. It doesn't take itself completely seriously. There is genuine comedy within the movie, but there's also dark comedy that the audience can enjoy that is bound up in the bizarre accidents and set pieces in which the characters are killed off during the course of the story. It is, I would say, perhaps a little on the long side. It's an hour and 50 minutes, which is, I think, significantly longer than any of the other films in the series. It could be a little bit tighter, I think, but it spends its time early in the first act building up our new set of characters, making them believable and plausible and setting out all their complex relationships. And then after about 40 minutes, it really kicks in and we start to get the meat of the movie and a more interesting exploration of the law, of how people can avoid being killed for such a long time, and how the other concepts tie together. We even get a return of Tony Todd, who appeared in most of the previous films as the mysterious Mr. Bloodworth, who seemed to know so much about death's design. And here we get an explanation of his backstory and who he is, as we get a farewell to the character, Todd having died before filming concluded, and the film is dedicated to him. As well as his final scene, the directors allowed him to improvise his own dialogue to give a final farewell to the film's viewers and his fans. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the better films of this year. It's certainly the best Final Destination film. And I think it's interesting that the film cost $50 million, which is a lot for a horror movie, but one on this scale, it seems reasonable. But because the studio decided to promote it as though it were a big blockbuster, it did blockbuster numbers. And it's wound up being one of the 10 biggest films of the summer, which is rare for a horror sequel, particularly one that's sixth in the series. So it shows that good quality films, buoyed by good promotion, will do well, even when they are a legacy sequel like this. I think it's quite heartening to see that effort is put into what could just be easy money. And instead we get a horror movie that's well written, well directed, well acted, engaging, funny, scary, really enjoyable. It's a really great roller coaster of a movie. I really liked it. And yeah, as I say, it's one of the best films I've seen this year.